Hi everyone, welcome. If you're new here, I am Chaitanya. You're watching Chai with Chaitanya. This is a place where I talk about books, movies, and fandom. So let's get started. Today I'm here to talk about The Colors We See by Kaisa. This is a copy that was sent in by the author herself from the UK, and it was supposed to be an ARC, but it ended up becoming a review copy thanks to COVID-19 pandemic and the fact that UK had a new strain. So the shipment got delayed, and I happened to read it right now last week, and I'm so glad that I read it because I absolutely enjoyed this book so much. I don't think I have read a lot of books that have related to me in a way that this book has. I have had friends, bookstagrammers, booktubers, book bloggers who have come up and spoken their hearts out that how a certain character has really felt very real to them, and I, for that matter, was never one of those people who had that sort of an experience with any of the characters that I've read. Yes, there are characters and there are books and there are stories that I really relate to, that I really like, those that have brought tears in my eyes, of happiness, of sadness, of sheer rage and of sheer surprise and shock and all of those emotions. But I think rarely have I come across a character that has really stood out for me, and in a way that I felt that the character is an extended version of myself, of who I am and what I think and what I feel and what I behave, why I behave the way I behave. And I think in this book, Kaisa's main protagonist, Hazel, she is a lot like me, if not extremely and very similar to me. And I could see a lot of things in the way she does is very similar to how I would do, and that is why probably this book just stood out for me a way lot more than any other book that I've read so far. And I gave this book a strong 5 stars, and I could find a couple of flaws, but then again, I just went ahead and overlooked them for the sake of the fact that this book otherwise delivered a great performance. So now, talking a little about the book and getting into the non-spoilery section. So first up, we have the premise, and the story follows this character called Hazel. She is from UK, from London, and she has a very dysfunctional family. Her mother is very overbearing. Her elder sister has left home when she was very young, when she was in her teenager, because she couldn't take it any further from with her mother. And the parents have gotten divorced, or they don't live together. It's not very well specified, or it's not very well clear, but it's implied that they don't stay together. And so Hazel moves out, and she wants to visit US because that is where Nathan lives, which is one of her cousin, and she thinks that going there would help her get away from her mother and be able to understand at what she wants to do with her life. And once she gets there, she finds that she has a passion for singing, and she soon happens to meet this band, which is led by this very beautiful, very mysterious, very reserved kind of a guy called Liam. And instantly, Hazel feels a pull towards him, and you get to see that Liam invites Hazel to join them on their band, who is right now touring across the states, and go with them to different states and sing for them as the lead vocalist. And obviously, Hazel has no plans for herself, no plans set in stone. She's a free bird, so she decides to jump in the bandwagon and go for this tour and give life a chance to where it will take her. And from there on, we see this beautiful road trip, and we get to see a lot of music, a lot of performances, friendships being made, relationship being forged, sex, drugs, use and abuse of drugs, and a lot of heartbreaks and very difficult things, lots of emotions oozing out from everyone, and lots of secrets coming out from everywhere, and just a culmination of all things that we call life. And I wouldn't like to tell you a lot more about this book because I want you to experience the sheer brilliance that this is, and give this book a chance, because I truly enjoyed it, as I said, and I don't advocate books in a way where it feels very personal to me. I always try to maintain like a very neutral stand, but I think that this book just felt and touched my heart so much. And quickly talking about the trigger warnings in this book, and I think that there are quite a few, so be prepared if you go into this book, because it can be very difficult for you if you do not know about them, and you'll be caught really off the guard. So there are trigger warnings for suicide, self-harm, drug abuse of all kinds, which includes cocaine, LSD, smoking cigarettes, alcohol, weed, and all sorts of other drugs that is possible, and I do not remember their names because I have no connection with them whatsoever. And you have neglectful parenting, religious conflict, and death, loss of a loved one, funerals, and just a bunch of other things which can, as I said, and as you might have known already, will become very triggering for certain people. But again, don't don't let that bog you down to an extent where you never pick this book up ever, because I think despite of it having certain very triggering and a very difficult topics, I think Kaisa has managed to navigate the story through equal parts of having the sadness, but also finding the hope and finding the happiness and finding who you truly are and what it means to be, to live in a world which is constantly suffering so much. Now, coming to the reasons why I like this book so much, apart from the fact that I really related to the character, and the first thing is that the each of these characters in here, apart from the main protagonists, are very unique. They are very well written. They have their own personalities, and they all have their independent stories woven into the main plot. And at no points do you feel bored of reading the stories of minor characters, something that I haven't really read a lot in YA, which this book again is categorized under. And second thing that I really liked about the fact is that I haven't read a lot of books surrounding music. Yes, I have read books in which music has in general played a great role in, but nothing to an extent like this, where music just becomes a backdrop of why these people are held together and why they know each other, or why they have to deal with one another, and how music has helped them in respective ways, and also art to a great extent, and how anything that is to do with self-expression helps you to come closer to who you are, and why it's important to always incline towards the passion that you have and find that passion and hone that passion and build yourself upon that passion. About this book was the fact that the themes that are explored in here and the way they are handled, I think that Kaisa has went completely all into the problem and into the conflict, such as drug abuse and suicide and self-harm, and yet she has maintained the sensitivity to an extent where you do not feel very threatened, where you are able to understand that why certain people get into all of these stuff in the first place, and how it's so difficult for them to come out, and how it is so difficult for the people around them to navigate life, and to bring them back on the brighter side of life. Speaking a little about the romance in this book, so it definitely has the trope where you have the bad guy and somewhat a good girl. It also has the troubled guy and the girl who's gonna save him, and if that is a trope, I think that's a trope. And it definitely is done well, and it's done well to a place and a point where you get to see that how somebody would go to a great extent for the other person to help them come out of the problem that they are facing. But again, you cannot get into somebody's problem to help them out of it to an extent where you lose your own sense of who you are and what you stand for. It's something that really bothers me every time I read a book like this, where you have a character who's really struggling, who's really broken, and who's really messed up, and inherently they are not bad people. They're just very messed up, and they had shitty childhood and traumatic experiences with life, and they've been so badly hurt that they just cannot really accept love and care from the other person. And then when they have a lover, because usually these kinds of people always have a lover, and some way or the other toxicity finds a way into all of us, I think. And when the lover comes for a person like this who's extremely toxic, you see that the lover would do and go at great lengths, but usually a toxic person would not be able to pull themselves out of the poodle that they are in, and eventually the lover would have to make peace with that and move on with their life, and then just get on with it. And you will eventually never hear about what happened to the toxic guy or the girl or whatever their gender is, or they'll die, or they'll just disappear, or something will happen to them that nobody knows. And while all of this is how it should be in real life, it's rational. Any therapist would also tell you this. I've been there myself in a relationship like this, so I know for sure. But it still makes me think about the people like Liam, that what happens to them, because spoiler alert, Liam dies. And it really hit me when he dies, because like with as much as Hazel felt that she could have saved him, and she felt that that guilt of not being there for him. I think if I would have been in the same situation, I would have felt same, and even for a friend or for a partner or whoever that person is. But how do you manage to pull these people out? I know I'm a great advocator and of the fact that only you can help yourself, but I also understand that sometimes you just need to stick by people and help them come on the brighter side. And this book also reminded me of the fact that it is so important to have a healthy childhood, to have good parents, to have a good upbringing, to ensure that your child is not feeling unloved, that he's met with his requirements and his needs, because what you have suffered in your childhood would truly impact the way you are as an adult. And that is something that is proven at great times, at great lengths, in a great number of mediums and forms. And it just got reaffirmed here that it's important and imperative to have more sensitive and kinder environment for people, and for parents to give love to their children, because if they do not, their children will just grow up to be absolutely messed up. And God forbid if somebody ends up like Liam, then it's such just a waste, and it just pains my heart to think about it. So yup, I absolutely enjoyed this book, if that's in short. And I cannot wait for you to read this book and tell me what you felt after reading this book. Also, if you're wondering about the cover, I absolutely loved the cover even before I read this book. And once I read this book, I fell in love with the cover of this book even more before when I had read this book, because the cover is of great significance. And it's not about what is on the cover, but it's about the whole cover in general. So yes, that is that. And also, before I go, I have a mood board that I made for this book, and that is my first mood board attempt. So it will be down in the description box, and I would love for you guys to go and check it out. The link to order this copy would also be in the description box. I would love for you guys to go and check it out. And that's about it for this one. I hope that you really enjoyed it. I will be seeing you very soon with another video and another review. Thank you, and keep watching.